Did the UN fail in its mission to stop the violence in Syria? Did it ever really have a chance to succeed? Those are two of the questions swirling around the UN withdrawal from Syria. A correspondent for CBS News says the 300 or so observers never got to accomplish their mission.
The main role of these UN observers was essentially to watch over or look after the ceasefire that was one of the points of Kofi Annan's 6-point peace plan. That ceasefire, in fact, was never really actually implemented.
And because of that, the UN observers were never able to keep the peace, or more importantly, to prevent mass killings, two of which reportedly happened in the last week. In the first, 60 people were found bound and burned in a Damascus landfill. As UN observers packed up to leave, the New York Times reports another grisly discovery was made. Initial reports by activists suggested that the dead had been killed by government shells, but the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, an opposition group based in Britain that has a network of contacts in Syria, later said that all the bodies had bullet wounds, suggesting that they had either died in the fighting or had been executed. A reporter for Al Jazeera notes diplomats in New York will continue to debate not what's happening on the ground, but what's up in the air, namely Syrian jets that are preventing peace.
So certainly we know that if this is something that's going to be discussed in the Security Council, it's going to be facing certainly opposition from Russia and China, who've always said they don't want a no-fly zone, they don't want sort of foreign military intervention.
For now, CNN's Nick Robertson reports many people are judging this UN mission as a failure, even as it has had its successes, too.
The UN really had nothing to monitor, and by halfway through their mission, all they were doing was sort of able to try and get truces at a local level to allow humanitarian supplies to get into small communities. So a success at that level.
But others aren't so kind to the UN efforts. The Independent asks, why end the mission now? Because there were some in the UN headquarters in New York who knew from the start that the assignment was not intended to succeed, or because the Western nations or Gulf sponsors do not want UN observers snooping into the amount of new and more lethal weaponry which they may be planning to send to the Free Syrian Army and its more bearded allies in those parts of Syria in which Bashar's writ no longer runs. I'm Jim Flink for Newsy. Multiple sources, the real story.